Hello, I'm Carly Bruck, and this is my informative speech on what a genetically modified organism is. And here's my audience. Today I'd like to inform you on what is a genetically modified organism, which is a large controversy in the world today. Most people think that it is altered and it's very harmful to consumption. However, I'd like to prove to you today on its safety and effects. So everybody thinks that you should buy organically, but the truth is it's more expensive and not always the better choice. So a genetically modified organism is two organisms bred together to make an ultimate plant, commonly known as GMO. What is done is you take your one organism paired with DNA of a perfect organism and breed those together, and you get a genetically modified organism. The biggest question with GMO products is it safe for human use? Well, the answer is yes. It has been proven to be good for people, but it's also better for the environment than your traditional crops, organic crops, or just seeds. It has been proven by the Food and Drug Act, and it is also in 70% of your processed food. So, most people want to eat organic, but they'll still go through a drive-through, so little do you know you're actually still eating GMO products. So, 99% of organisms are genetically modified in today's time. So, it is very hard to find non-GMO. So therefore it is a lot more costly, and you pay more for organic, and it's not always better. So I'd like for you to look at this slide and tell me if you can spot the non-GMO corn. Which corn out of these two would you prefer to eat? Would you feed that non-GMO corn to your family and your kids? I know I wouldn't. GMO corn, genetically modified, or any seed for that matter, there's two types of genetic modifications. You have Barciculus thungris, or BT for short. That is for pesticide. It's very important because that's what keeps your bugs off of your crops as they grow. So in actuality, you are no longer having to spray as much pesticide onto your crops as they grow. Therefore, you're not putting off as much pollution into the ground for runoff into your drinking water, swimming water, or so forth. And also, this is going to keep bugs off of your food. I mean, I personally wouldn't want to eat a vegetable that has had a bunch of worms crawling all over it. So there's your plus for genetically modified Bacillus thungris. This makes your organism healthier. Your second strand of genetically modified is weed killer. It's resistant to weed killer. It's known as Roundup Ready. It comes in corn, soybeans, cotton, papaya. I mean, it's almost every seed in today's time. Like I said, 99% of anything we eat is GMO, so 99% of your seeds are GMO. So, resistant to weed killer, Roundup Ready. This is so that way your farmers that are growing your foods, that are feeding you every day, are not having to go through numerous times a day hand pulling weeds, cultivating, plowing. They can go through with their tractor, spray once or twice as the crop's coming up, and they don't have any weeds. So that's very important. Like I said, some crops you don't even realize are GMO. The top 7 genetically modified organisms: corn, as I mentioned, soy, so everybody that likes to drink soy milk, 9 times out of 10 it's probably genetically modified. Cottonseed, I'd say this shirt I'm wearing today is genetically modified. Papaya, that's a fruit you eat. Canola oil, your everyday cooking oil, genetically modified. Sugar beets, that's just to name a few. Like I said, the top 7 that are GMO organisms. By being GMO, you're just more economically savvy. It's more economical for your farmers. They're able to sell their goods at a more reasonable price. Therefore, they're making a higher income. Consumption is much cheaper. They're not having to charge us as consumers an arm and a leg every time we want a vegetable or a fruit or a shirt, because they can grow their crops for much less. They can buy their seeds for less. They're not having to put in hundreds and thousands of dollars into pesticide. They're not having to run their tractors 10, 20, 30 times a day trying to get weeds out. So that's going to bring your inflation price down. It makes it better for the consumers. It makes it better for the farmers. All in all, you're getting a better overall outcome by choosing genetically modified organisms. It's less work, so therefore it's cheaper. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Some of the major brands for genetically modified seeds, Monsanto, they offer brands of genetically modified organisms. They provide solutions for protection for their seeds and their crops, and they also have a guarantee. And they are moving right along with the modern agriculture evolving needs. Just to name a few, you have Aceleron, Ascro, Corn States, DeKalb. DeKalb's one of the most popular seed corn providers out there. You have BioAg, Lewis Hybrids, they do a lot of the soybeans, and then they actually provide the Roundup and the Roundup Custom and the Roundup Power Max. So that's all coming from Monsanto. And so they are actual farmers that have seen how genetically modified organisms have helped as a whole for consumer and farmer, and have been able to modify these seeds and have tested them and proved them to be, efficiently grown. And, I know I've talked a lot about the farming side of it, but I really just want to touch base on the farmer's perspective. I saw some research that Billy Bob Brown that had published online. He was born on a farm in the Texas Panhandle. He's an older man, so he's an old farm guy. He's been around. He's seen it from when you planted by hand and plowed by hand. I mean, he's literally watched every change and evolution of farming. So as he put some things really well, I'd like to share with you. So like many other technologies, change is necessary for growth. Just like with computers, I mean, if we didn't change, we'd still be handwriting everything. I mean, I'd still be driving to Norfolk right now to present this speech. However, I'm able to do it online. With change has come technique, knowledge, better crops, equipment. I mean, think back before you got 2 or 3 rows of corn. Okay, well, that's not going to feed America. Well, now we're able to plant thousands and thousands of acres. Okay, well, if we were still going by old techniques, we'd be plowing that by hand or hand pulling your weeds. Or even fast forward, when it was horse-drawn equipment, that's still going to take days. So fast forward to antique tractors when they were 2 cylinders and you only had 50 horsepower. That still takes a lot of time. Now we have hybrid tractors. We have tractors that are 200 horsepower. I mean, fields can be plowed, picked, chopped, whatever you're doing in a matter of hours versus days. That, goes back to the economics of it. It's cheaper. It's more efficient. So, just like with GMO, it has evolved and turned into something brilliant. Billy Bob Brown, something that, I was just touching on, he remembers equipment becoming better and user-friendly. As I was saying, the hand equipment up to the horse-drawn up to tractors, and your tractors up to 200 horsepower tractors. Things change. We have to be on track and changing with them. Now we have bigger tractors, it's less work, they're more efficient. And it all goes back, this whole genetically modified organism controversy situation all begins originally with plant breeding. Nobody had a problem with plant breeding, crossing 2 organisms together to get 1. That's exactly what's still happening. But crossbreeding and or plant breeding was a long, expensive process. Now we're able to take the exact genes that are needed and required from plant A and combine them with plant B. So all in all, this is a financial stability type of thing. My favorite thing that Billy Bob Brown said is when he compared genetically modified organisms to Clark Kent and Superman. This is the Superman plant. He's here to save the day. He's here to make our pocketbooks fuller, our heads less gray, and our farmers happy. Because if your farmer's happy, 9 times out of 10, we're going to have more crops. So, as I've already discussed, GMO organisms is safety to us and very purposeful, not only for the consumer, but for the producer. This is an evolution of farming that has grown into a booming organism. As a farmer, it has decreased his workload, and it's better able to tend to more crops and animals. Whereas when he was spending days in, a crop field, and his cows and his horses and his sheep and his chickens were not getting as much attention, now he can spend less time on the crops, more time on the animals, which I think is very important. So, in conclusion, and looking on the bright side, due to GMO Roundup Ready seeds, the need for herbicide has almost gone extinct. Therefore, what this means to us as a consumer, your vegetables are not being sprayed multiple times by a harsh chemical. Let's just think herbicide kills the insects. Therefore, it's harmful to us. Whereas with GMO, we have found a plant that is resistant to insects that insects don't like, and we've crossed that with a organism that insects do like, which transcends that characteristic to plant B. Those harsh chemicals are not going into our soil. They're not running off into our water. Pollution is decreasing. Less hours are spent in a tractor. Therefore, there is less pollution in the air, and there is less fuel being used. Therefore, less crude oil is needing to be drilled, which kind of, to me, relates in less oil spills. So, all in all, GMO seeds are the better choice. And in conclusion, I believe I've made a firm statement that genetically modified organisms are not near as scary as some believe. So, go out today and try a genetically modified organism as your vegetable for choice today. Thank you. Have a great day.